So he's going to do a combination of working on the grass. Jan's going to be his flanker. He'll, you see how he's bringing his head up and back down? You're going to see that a lot with scenting dogs because he's taking advantage of everything that's there. Now, Jan's his flanker.
What percentage?
It's a flanker works to sort of see what's ahead, to actually help read the dog in cases where you are losing track. Yeah. And I was just across the top of this hill, so yeah. And it's, you know, it's not, it actually takes an enormous amount of patience to work dogs on old trails. Now he's back on scent. Okay, and you see how the wind is actually a little bit at our backs. Now he's really working. I came right across the top. This is actually a beautiful little view. This is why I like bloodhounds.
Did you walk there, or did you?
Yes, I walked there. So I walked there last night at about 6 p.m. But remember, there's a lot of about 6:30. There's a lot of contamination. Now, I didn't cross the road, but scent may have gone across the road. I went across the way the wind is going, and the wind has switched up, and I came across the top of that. Do you see where he is right there? Okay. No, he shouldn't. He shouldn't. Yep, he's doing exactly what I did. It can, but he's doing what a trailing dog should, just sort of steady as he goes. I was just up from that telephone pole, and the degree to which, you know, he gets pulled, right? And if he gets off track, what Ed will do is recast him, right? And go ahead. You can tell when a dog, this is completely blind, yeah. He doesn't know where the track is. No.
But you would read the dog and say he's running.
You would, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
This is all different.
Yes, and that's about where I started going downhill. So right about there. Now realize that this, I mean, the traffic and everything makes for difficult conditions. So he's overshot a little bit here, and no, he hasn't. That's exactly right. You know, people when they give demos, it's never right. It's never easy. It's never straightforward. And what the nice thing about dogs is that they're not perfect, right? Or handlers. No, I don't always trust the dog. I trust but verify. It's why even in cadaver I try to work about 50% of the hides that are known to me, so that's exactly where I came down. Okay, and there's a lot of moisture there at the bottom, so I expect that he's going to kind of hang out there until he picks it up again, because that's wet down there, and of course it rained last night. So he is exactly on my track now, okay? But he's gonna have to figure out, I crossed across that bottom there, and you can see how much he's back on the track, right there. You can tell that he's got a really good handle, because I put it especially, now he may pull into the woods a little bit, because sometimes that catches up, right? Catch the scent.
Now, do you have an article late at the end, or how do you know?
I'm the article. So momentarily, actually, if you'll excuse me, while you watch him, he's going to be coming through between the trees and the fence line, so you can watch as he recasts. But I actually have to go be lost now, so I'm just going to take his hot dogs and his slobber cloth, and I'm going to go to the stadium steps. Oh, no. He's being videoed. Feel free. Okay, so this is, so you see he's led astray here, okay? And this can happen. And
Does the other person know where the track is?
Jan knows where part of the track is, but and Mac is is very close to retirement. Ed only works him now. He lost a dog to torsion in July, his superstar dog. But this is a very experienced tracking trailing dog. Well, and you see how he's got that loose lead.
Is there a simple explanation about the difference?
Yeah,
Between tracking and trailing?
no, there isn't. But Ed will talk to you about it, because AKC tracking is nothing like what he's doing. So I'm just going to go get my hot dogs. Big old slobber cup. Good boy. Nice, bud. Here, bud. He's a good boy.
And I have to
Yes,
brag
I'm
on him a
good
little.
boy. Oh, hold on, one more,
We had
bud.
a search the other
Hold
day.
on, here's a couple more. Here's a couple more. Oh, it's a good boy. Nice work, bud. Nice work. All done. Here, look at this. That's it, bud. There's a hot dog too. Nice work, bud.
So
Yeah.
he went down past.
Yeah,
it,
I
but
saw that he had overshot
but,
there a little.
You know, with the wind blowing,
Yep.
and then I kind of stopped him.
No,
he
I
worked
saw,
his
and
way
I
back.
talked a little bit about what happens and how far scent can move. And he did such a nice job there, Ed, at the bottom, because I kind of stopped in that moisture down there for a moment, right by that white statue, and that's where he really got it nicely. And then his line across the bottom of that field was just perfect.
And then he
So
come
people,
across,
yeah,
you know,
so
the
you want to
wind's
put
blowing
them,
that way.
yeah, no, put them up, and then people have a lot of questions. Ed's going to come talk to you after he's put him up. So yeah, I mean, feel free to take pictures and everything. And after Ed puts them up, Ed'll come back and explain. As he said, he did lose the trail there a little bit, but then was able to sort of recast. And again, you know, a 9-year-old bloodhound is that's a good age, and Mac is mostly doing tracks that are half mile, right? A standard track will be something can be a mile and a half or something like that, right?
Sorry.
Oh, it's
Those are
your
mine.
bad dogs.
Yeah, my bad.
So,
Do they lose their nose ability? as
sure,
they get older?
sure they do. And you have to watch because if you think about the whole thing that they're doing, if you think about all the microaggressions
Yeah.
that a nose gets over the course of a lifetime,
Okay, yeah.
the same is true of humans, that
Yeah.
we actually slowly lose because of scarring our ability. And it can differ from dog to dog, right? So, and there is a point where you have to watch. And sometimes it can be hard to know whether it's the nose that's going or the body that's going because,
Yeah.
right? And
wear out.
yeah, they wear out. I mean, I retired Solo, not because his nose, he was incredibly efficient. But, he just would get tired and sore too soon. So, but we'll have a chance. Do you, we'll talk for 10. Do you want to go bring your dog down? Can you just drive down with the dog?
Yeah, we can bring her in the dog car. You want to grab her one?
Well, actually, let's wait till Jan's dog has
Oh,
run.
she wants
Yeah,
her ear.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. And then,
I need you to bring me the number. I can get it for myself.
well,
Well, let's wait till
we can wait till Jan's run her dogs, and that way everybody's been good.
I mean, if you want to do it blind, then don't watch.
I don't want to do it blind. She's
Okay.
too new.
Yeah. So are there other questions about
Well, I had the same question, well, about what's the difference between tracking, trailing, then you have the Schutzen, and then what about air scenting?
So,
Do they-
Jan will talk to you about air scenting, and Ed will talk about sort of tracking, trailing. It depends on the dog. It depends on, I mean, there are dogs that you call trailing dogs.
It depends on how you train the dog. You can train an air scent dog to be scent specific. I have not seen very many, but a live find air scent wilderness dog basically goes out, tries to find the scent of a person, and then goes into that person. It's problematic if you're in a park. Technically, that dog should go up and tag everybody he sees. So the police are good about, getting others out of the park if you're looking for little Johnny who's been missing. And then I'll let Ed tell you. And there, again, you can train them to be scent specific. My experience, which is not that worldly, but my experience with my 5 dogs has been, I had one that could have been scent specific, and it was something in his genes. He was able to bypass my husband and go find a person out there. None of the rest of mine would do that.
Yeah.
Say a child's
So-
lost in a wilderness area, can you scent the dog that's trained to do this on the child's clothing, and then it will go and find that child, or
And
does?
that's what Ed's dog.
Yeah,
and
so
I'll let
Ed,
you-
go ahead and talk about that trail and
Right
what
back
he
to what
does.
she said, I knew a lady that had taught her dog area search. Real good dog. She went to Scent Pacific. I was out in the middle of 80 acres, the dog found me. She quit that because the dog would not pass somebody else. This lady is good, her dog is good, but she quit doing the Scent Pacific because, and it wouldn't certify, because it would not pass that person.
The non-scent,
The non-scented
non-scented
person.
person.
And most, if you think about disaster work, air scent dogs that are sent in, FEMA dogs, they're going in to find anybody who's alive in that
Alive.
collapsed building, right? So that's where the live air scent dogs are at their strongest, is in those kinds of scenarios.
And that's why FEMA won't take a cross-trained dog, one that does live and dead, because you get them on the pile.
They don't
I
know
don't
what
care
they're
how
supposed
good
to do.
the dog is, or how good you think the dog is. It's likely to go to final response on the opposite of what you're looking for.
And you want to get the live people out first and not worry about the dead, but what they've found in the studies they've done is that cross-trained dogs don't say, wait a sec, that person's dead, I'm gonna come
I'm
back
gonna
for
go
him
this
later.
way.
Oh,
Okay, so, Ed, talk about the trail,
The question
Okay.
was the difference between trailing and tracking.
and what happened with
Trailing,
Mac.
here's tracking. Footstep for footstep. A lot of police do it. It's crushed vegetation. When you walk across that vegetation, it smells different. That's footstep for footstep. When you do certifying tracking, it's footstep for footstep. When you certify in trailing, she could have walked up there. The scent is way down here. The scent is, they don't have to go footstep for footstep. They can be blocks off. That's where the scent's at. Some dogs work the fringes. Now, when up here, when you couldn't see him, he was going back and forth. And that would, to me, would have set a car trail. Plus, a car trail, the scent, all cars throw scent out. And when cars go back and forth, they're throwing that scent around. So my dogs go back and forth and back and forth. To me, it's mostly a car trail,
Yeah.
okay? Until he got up here and then he worked out of it.
Right, you saw where I said where he was right on the concrete, I crossed right across that top, and you said, well, maybe he's gonna come down the steps, and I said, no, he won't, right?
No. He continued on because she drove up and down this several times, at least once, and that was the freshest trail. This trail was laid last night after it rained and such.
I did.
So,
I
you know, believe it or not, the older trail is an easier one on such as that, for me. Because an old guy, Bert Crawford, he trained bloodhounds at Quantico for the FBI. I told him I wanted my dog to work on the trail. He says, do an older trail. To him, scent was like gasoline, water, and oil. The fumes of the gasoline is way out there, and then when it dries up, it comes to the water, and once the water dries up, it comes to oil, and oil never goes nowhere. So he says use an older trail for the best trail.
And you saw when I said, he's not turning, and then I said, oh, yes, he is, right? So at the point that he came down, he had all that vegetation,
Right.
crushed vegetation to go on coming down that hill.
I don't know where, he hung by that pole right there.
That's exactly where I went.
And come down to this, there's a cement slab water drain. He walked over the water drain.
Yep, that's
cement
where I was.
slab,
Yeah.
And then cut down. He went a little bit farther. I do what I call a line check. I just try to stop him. If he's on and he pulls me, we go. If he stops and turns around, then I start backing up until he finds a trail again. And then he took off.
How did you go over there? Did you walk across that concrete?
Yes, and then where the grass changes color, I
Uh-huh.
walked on the outside of where it changed color because I wanted to actually,
And he went down
And-
to the woods.
and he went a little further.
And
He-
then come back.
And then he came back, yeah. So are there other sort of questions?
Do you study what the day's been doing, like weather, wind?
Weather has a
anything
lot
like
to
that?
do with it.
Do you
but-
study that?
No.
No, you just
Uh,
let your dog trust your dog?
Well, that day I don't study it.
Okay.
We get called out 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Very seldom do we get, police is out there 2 days before we are. And then they call us out, well, we can't find nothing. So then they call us out. So what it did 2 days ago, I did not look that up. I trust my dog. I read my dog. Trust my dog is not the good phrase. It's read your dog.
Okay.
What's the worst case scenario in weather? Is rain or snow, or what would be the worst? The hardest?
Heat.
Heat is worse?
And dry too, right? Like Arizona?
It probably, but the scent is way up here with
It
with
just
the heat.
rises.
Rain, snow. I had a dog that plowed his nose through I laid a trail one night. It snowed 6 inches and his nose was just plowing the whole trail. So, snow is good. 6 inches down.
And how, Ed, what do you think? He's 9 now?
Yeah.
And he's on the edge of retirement.
Yeah, I had a 6.5-year-old. He was gonna be my backup. Anyway, he died.
Yeah,
Sorry.
So now I'm pushing him.
yeah. And Ed just went out to North Carolina to pick up a 3-year-old to try to get started.
So that I'll have something whenever he's done.
Yeah. It's just hard.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Everybody, you know, my vet told me once, you love them all, but some are just a little more special, and we've all had our soulmate. We all know
Yes.
that.
Yes, we
And
have.
He was a puppy. No more puppies.
Yeah, yeah. So, Ed, thank you, and I thank you for doing that. And what we're going to do now is more in my wheelhouse. As I was talking to Ed, the fact is that I lay trails for law enforcement dogs all the time. But what we're doing are very hot trails. So I get a Kong, the dog's Kong, you know.
Yeah.
I run through the woods, they want 4 different surfaces. I circle around, I get back to the car, we let it cook for 25 minutes, and then I flank the dog and the handler running behind them to confirm that that's the trail until the dog finds his Kong. But that's what law enforcement, those are the jump and runs, right? Those canines are called in so quickly after that that's the kind of trail they work. And so the question is, could they do what a bloodhound does? They absolutely could, but they don't get trained on 12-year-old trails because there's rarely a time that they're going to be called out for that. And so are they going to be as good? No, you don't train them on that. And we talked a little bit about a good bloodhound as a single-purpose dog.
And that's all you want him for. You don't want him for nothing else. One guy trained his bloodhound to be an HRD dog. Works off trail, does a real good job. But, you know, bloodhounds are stubborn. And he used the shot collar the whole time he did it. So, but the dog works fine.
Yeah.
So, but, yeah. Given a 3-hour trail, I would take a shepherd, anything, go for it. After 12, 24 hours,
You want a specialty.
you want a bloodhound.
So,
To me.
yeah. And you know, I have friends now that are doing half coonhound, half bloodhound, and having really, really good luck because because the coonhounds still have some of those great working genetics in them.
And I'm old. I don't want to run that fast.
You know, I was noticing that the two of you feel really nicely matched out there.
We're slow.
Just.
And that makes a big difference.
So we are going to turn now, so Ed Wolf and Jan Meyer are both with Gateway Search Dogs, which is in St. Louis. I've known Jan for probably a decade because when I started researching the book, I would show up at search conferences and Jan was there. And Gateway is just a fine team and is a team that gets used a lot in this area. Law enforcement trusts them and know that they will show up and be professional and work a job and turn in their reports on time. This is all so important, right? And cover the area that they're told to cover by the cops. And if the cops want suggestions from them, they'll give suggestions of, you know, I know that the perimeter tape is right here, but have you thought at all about looking over there?
Right.
Right? So, so Jan is going to work her lab, and I'm just going to turn it over to her to give a little explanation, and we will all just move over to across the top of that, and you'll actually be able to see her dogs working. So Jan, take it away.
Okay, thanks. I'm gonna work, I have 2 dogs with me, but one's a pup, and after it's all over with, we're gonna run our puppies on the hides that are out there. There are 2 hides in 2 different places. The wind is definitely not cooperating. We like to run the dogs straight into the wind if we can, but we're not gonna be able to do that today. So What I'll do is I'll release her up here. I'll give her the command. I haven't told her where the sources are yet. She's going to have to tell me. And hopefully she will go down and find both of them. So
What kind of hides?
cadaver.
Okay.
So this is cadaver.
Yeah, this is cadaver. I'm sorry. Yeah.
And I'll narrate a little. I haven't. I've seen your lab work a couple times. Every dog works differently. The body language is different depending on the dog. And for some hides, this is a fair amount of scent, and it's been out there for about 45 minutes or an hour, maybe. Sometimes, if you're doing something, for instance, if you know that you're working a clandestine case, right, or a burial, you don't necessarily want to worry about the wind. As a matter of fact, sometimes the fact is it's better to start the dog downwind simply because they'll be able to flip, right? So depending, right, or if we think that there's somebody drowned in a river, right, there are people who actually, instead of starting downstream from where they think the drowning victim is, they'll actually take their dogs upstream because the dog is immediately going to come into the top of the scent. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So
And that's exactly what I do on water.
So yeah,
Because
yeah.
otherwise, when you're downstream and
The
there's a
dog's
lot
going,
of
scent,
dogs
scent,
bark,
whoa,
bark,
whoa,
bark,
whoa,
yeah.
whoa, for a mile and a half, right?
Right.
Because a body's going to send all that down, and so depending on the dog, it can be pretty exhausting, and you want to kill them by the time you reach where the drowning victim is. So we'll
Let's just
move people
walk over
over
here.
and get cameras shifted. So folks, I'm gonna tell you because depending, it can go fast. It's nice that there's no rain. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you approximately where the hides are, because that's going to help you watch the dogs ahead of time, okay? And I'm not giving anything away because Jan put the hides, so that's her young lab. Yeah, I love that sound. And by the way, they don't do that on a trail. Bloodhounds keep their mouths shut on a trail, so not like in the movies. But do you see that clump of trees down there, and you see that sort of gray shape at the bottom? Okay, there is a hide directly behind that in that clump of trees. Okay, and
what she'll do is when she finds it, she will bark. Okay.
so this is a nice little working lab. And then and she's going to have to get her yayas out, so you can just expect her. And then do you see this tree that's starting to turn shape down here? Basically, just inside the tree line, all the way down. Okay. One of the things about yeah. Oh, I'll do that. I'll pick it up after.
You're not filming that, are you?
No, actually, I need to get a couple shots, so thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, do we feel better though?
So this dog covers lots of area. She is.
Yes,
Well, she's checking out though where the hot dogs were. Well, with air scent dogs, I've, of course, the side of a highway, I've had to work on lead. I've had to work on lead sometimes when there's a scene with a lot of law enforcement and you're searching inside a house, but the ideal is to allow them to work off. Tessa's had a number of recoveries. She's a very happy little dog, and she's air scenting. Now you may see her. Did you see that? Did you see that? And did you see her tail? And we don't know what the air is doing. It's pretty hot and it's pretty humid out here, and those air and there's not much wind. Those air mommy, 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 mommy. No, she's on it. She was on it, and yeah. So she's just taking her back. She's doing essentially because she's trying to do a refind. What with her? Because mom's not fast enough, right? So she's like, come over. It's over here. Yes, pretty much. And there's people who want that dog to just stick that, but hi, good to see you. And no, but you do want to make sure that you have the provenance of all of those things. It's not as bad as a lockbox on drugs. And it's a very state. And Hawaii doesn't even allow. So she wants to go back and cheat, and then mom says no. Yes. So the well, sometimes they want to go back, and with my young dog, I'll usually reward him one more time if he goes back, and then he kind of knows to move on. So she's moving fast. Did you see? She picked up. Did you see that? Look at her. Okay, yeah. And sometimes you can watch. She'll film that. She's so excited. No, she just took her lead off. I mean, the fact is that I don't even have a signal for my dog. I have my gappy ball in my pocket. He gets a gappy ball in his mouth the moment he gets out of his crate. There's a gappy ball waiting for him in the ground, and that's his signal to start searching is when I take him out. There we go. So look where the scent has gone, sort of behind, okay? So she's trying to hone in because Jan wants her. Do you see that tail going? So she's right on it, but of course Jan's not fast enough. And FEMA trains a bark alert because dogs in disasters can rarely sit or lie down, and sometimes they're out of sight of the handler in construction debris, and so that bark is very handy. Yeah. No. But I work with a couple people who are female, but I mostly work with law enforcement. So that's pretty easy, and a pretty experienced dog, and she's gonna also run her young lab, her much younger, pain in the rear lab, and what, the Labrador?
No.
We all age out of this work.
No.
So I think that what's
She tries to come back to me like that on a kind of a refind. I don't let her in training.
until she goes
So
back.
that's why I stopped. She has to stay at the source.
Yeah. Because it can be very small amounts of source,
We all wanna
and if
take
the
her
dog
home.
just leaves it, then they have to redo the scent
Stick around
work if
for the
it's
yellow
trace
one. If you want
stuff.
to take her home, you can.
Hi, sweet girl. Hi, sweetie pie.
You are cute as a new button. Yes, you are.
So she's 6. She's 4. So, so one of the nice things, are you going to be willing to work the other dog in front of people too?
I can.
Because what I like about watching inexperienced dogs is you learn so much more from inexperienced dogs, because the experienced dogs just sort of make it look easy. It's like, you know, a minute and she's done.
Well, she went in and walked it, and that, I would have put her up if I hadn't been doing the demo.
Yes.
That's unacceptable. Yes, sir. At home? I have 2 here and I have 4 more at home, but they're not search and rescue dogs. They work for my husband, who shoots defenseless birds.
Oh. You know, that will be on tape too. So Jan, how often does your team get called out?
We get about 30 a year.
And I need to say that that's an astonishing number. There are search and rescue teams these days who may end up with 2 or 3 call-outs a year. And you also realize that live find, lost hunters, etc., have become rarer and rarer because of all the equipment that we carry with us. And so the need for live find dogs has actually dropped. And you have...
Well, but we, you know, it's statistics, but we're going to get more Alzheimer's. And fewer hunters.
Yes.
Fewer hikers. They have cell phones. They still don't carry a GPS, but they do have cell phones. Little kids.
Yep.
Autistic children.
Yes.
We've seen more of that. But that's kind of a relative thing that I'm a working dog.
And one of the things about Alzheimer's victims that makes it very difficult for finding them is that there is no rationale for where you find them, and people will actually, they will walk into those bushes and keep walking until they can no longer walk, and they will stand in place and walk, and then they'll die there. And so it is one of the things where cadaver dogs are so needed, because Alzheimer's victims can be so overlooked by people, just searchers, because the underbrush, it's so common to just find them there. So
It's sad. There's a creek within the creek bed.
yeah, there's just no rhyme or reason. You can't use the human. So that's where the cadaver dog is so helpful. So you can see the little hunting dogs that have those. I can't look at a broad muzzled Labrador and admire them anymore, because this is what I love, right?
And I can carry her out of the woods.
Thank you, Jan, so much.
I've never seen such a fit lab.
Do you need a little recovery? Yes. Yes, he did. He did. He's not happy about being. Yeah, and Jan's gonna run her little guy, and then Sue here has a beginning dog that we're gonna run.
That doesn't bother me. Brother Smoke does, so thank you for using that.
So, yeah, so we're gonna, so she's just gonna have a chance to run that, her dog too.
Tired of playing on the dark side?
With all these laws like that, how do they know the person you need a cadaver dog or a line search dog? Do they do line search
Often,
first?
and oftentimes it depends on the case.
Oh, I see.
It depends on the case. When they've been missing for 3 weeks.
Smart girl.
I went
She is.
Tessa, kennel. And they were breeding a couple of months and that couldn't presence is full on now. She's great. She had caught.
She's
And what they took her wanted was
she and I did bond.
Oh yeah, no, they've got an edge.
So I
And the plots have an edge too.
months ago.
Okay, so Jen, hold on. Can everybody? I want to hear before you. How old is she? Experience, etc.
She's just 2, but I mean, by now Tessa was already certified, but Satch and I didn't bond real well in the beginning. She was more interested in squirrels and rabbits. So I had to let her grow up a little bit. And we've been training, I'd say, 4 months. So not long.
Right. So we don't know what we'll see. That's the joy of it.
I felt that today when I was running agility.
Oh, and I have that on video too. So you can see the hunting lab instinct there. No, she's not. She's not even working yet. She's just getting her yayas out.
I'm out of bags, Ed.
Yeah. What? Everybody's pooing.
Okay.
Everybody needs to pee and poo.
I'm gonna put my lead there.
Oh, you gotta be.
Where? I'm allergic.
Hold still.
Are you allergic to
I am allergic. I have my EpiPen up in the car.
Still chasing you.
They like me.
I've been running in circles.
Yeah. And you know, I used to have hives and I had to stop. There we go. There we go. He'll be out. I had to give away our hives, which I was very sad. So look at her. Okay. Okay. So this is, no, that's not a wow. That's where she's going to have to, she's going to have to train her because, yeah, there's a young dog. She's been working with her for 4 months. This is a much bigger source of scent. Did you see that flip? Okay, so that's very nice. But see, we need to, she will break her of that. Okay, this is what you, this is the frustration. Yeah, dogs do, but, and they can't. And Jan, I'm sure, is very irked right now. But now that's nice. Now she's right on top of it. There we go. That's nice. That's great.
Can you talk about proofing the dog on a scent, training them to the scent?
Yeah.
Because that's one thing we may have to do with that would be good to show them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's,
We'll see what she does.
yeah. Oh, she's so excited. Okay.
I found it, I did it.
Now I get to poo. I get to be. Yeah, and the thing is,
She just came up here, she's been doing other things, she didn't get a chance to potty her.
no, she didn't. And this is nice. She's doing a nice bark alert. Jan has super dogs, and the reason she's not going to certify her until these behaviors are eliminated. But Jan has always run. These are the drives that make dogs easy to work in this field, right? This is makes it so easy long term because. No. Yeah. What? That's not a cadaver. No.
No, I know, I think Purina.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe she'll do a little better job this time. Now that she knows. There we go. She's on it right there. But you see, no. She and this is the walking scent, right? You walking source. You can't have it long term, right? And this is when I said yesterday, dogs don't always succeed at this, and you can end up washing dogs. Well, it can be, but as much as anything, yeah. Jan is gonna be massively irked. She doesn't. It's part of it is driving the wrong way and not.
I have a big question. And my concern in tracking, just in general,
Yeah.
tracking, is
Yeah.
area where they're.
Yeah.
What do you do to eliminate, first of all, this allergic reaction that you're going to have from being touching them?
I get poison ivy. I check the dogs compulsively for ticks. I don't use tick stuff on. I don't on Jocko. I use a spray right before he searches, and then for the next night or so I go over his whole body with the tick comb, and of course I check myself. I did go on a search once where it was basically all day in swamp conditions, and I came home. No, I had seed ticks like pepper on my legs. I probably had 1,000 ticks that had gotten up under my gaiters, and because of the dampness, so just tiny little baby ticks. I looked down at my legs and I thought, huh. They usually don't. It was awful. But anyway.
I mean, that's the negative.
Well, there's a lot of negatives, but there's a lot of positives.
No, that was
I just,
the only
yeah,
negative I see.
yeah.
I don't know why they're walking this one. So
It's not as strong.
Yes, on my rate sheet and contract says if I get a bonus, it's for winner's dog.
Oh, okay.
It's a major owner,
No, well,
and winner's bitch as well. And then if
that one's actually the strongest, but I don't know what's in it. I'm gonna have to look. I thought it was a.
something big. Others like to do
Oh, look at you. Good place to search.
But they're not. Tessa walked it, and then Satch did the same thing. Fetch it up, Satch. Fetch it up. Good. Fetch it up. Bring it here.
So we were talking.
Well, and yeah, but both of them went in, put their nose on it, and walked it. That's unacceptable.
No,
Let's
it
go back
isn't.
to the car time.
Yeah, and usually what you do is, we talk about all positive training. It is all positive training, but occasionally you want to reset the dog's head. And so Jocko early on, since he was from the Czech Republic, he was clearly spent a lot of time in the kennel, and he loved chasing flies. And so the first few times he got out in a field to do training, the grasshoppers. He was like, oh my God, right? I didn't go to heaven. So you don't say no, cut it out. What you do is put him up for 2 minutes, and he is going rah 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 rah, and I worked him on a long line for a little while so that it wasn't to actually correct him on the long line, but I had the long line, so if he started chasing grasshoppers, it was just collecting the long line back to the car, 3 minutes in the car, right? It's not even like a toddler's timeout. It's simply that it's to recheck them and then let them out. And that's probably, it's a beautiful, beautiful system for when you've got a dog where you're getting frustrated, the dog's not doing the kind of thing you want it to do, and you're about to get really pissed off. 3 minutes is plenty of time in the crate to then just say, hey, brand new day, let's try this again, right? And that's what Jan would have done that if it hadn't been a demo. She would have put both dogs up and then let them out. But to me, it just, we've all done this. There's no magic to scent detection that anybody in obedience or agility hasn't experienced, right? No dog is 100%. They just don't exist. And so I think what irks me more than anything is all the magic tales that get told by the time it hits the media about these amazing dogs. So you know, the possibility of actually seeing dogs work, you go, well, that looks pretty sloppy. And it's like, no, that was just amazing work that dog did. So, thank you for doing that. I was, Jan, thank you. And I was just telling him that system of putting the dog up for 3 or 4 minutes to let them chill and recheck before you start them again.
Yeah, and you know, even like in a room or a house in an interior area, I'll go in, shut the front door, and sit for a minute and let them acclimate. And it's amazing, they almost immediately, not go to the source immediately, but they don't have trouble. They're not, is it here?
Right.
That's another thing that we do,
Yes.
and it works on a test too.
Yes, and realize how many people make this mistake, that you're searching a house, whether it's for drugs or for trace evidence, and you open the door to let the dog in, and you just keep the door open, and what's happening to the scent, right?
Yeah,
The scent, if it's been, it's just whooshing out the door, it's doing all sorts of things. So if you're going to search a room, you step into the room, you close the door, then you let the dog go, and you're not going to get that whole horrible swirling. I was talking a little bit with the, you know, cars at the top, and how with scent, you know, you can get an opening in the woods and you can have scent rolling on either side of the wood line, right? And it can make it almost impossible, and you'd look at that and think, oh, that's fine, but it's like a wind tunnel. I came at it, Ed, it just took me another paragraph to say what you just said.
Because you're a writer. And a woman.
A wind tunnel. I'm going to remember that. So thank you all.